I'm going to read a diary note to you. I have permission. Dear friend, I watched a lady on TV this week. She talked about God and miracles. Her face shone like an angel. Today I went and sat behind our townhouse in the ditch and thought about God. I don't know much about him. I want him to think I am good, and I wish I could make him happy. I'm just not sure how to do that. Love, Donna. Well, the next few minutes may inspire you to start journaling, if you don't already. Donna Lea Dyck has spent almost 18 years working alongside her husband, Reverend Bill Dyck, in downtown Toronto, making a difference in the lives of some of the most broken and needy. I know that desire was in her heart as a young girl. There's a growing empathy, very evident, in her diary. Confessions of a not-so-average girl. Donna, welcome.
Thank you.
Interesting title. You were messaged loud and clear that you were an average girl growing up.
That's right.
And you believed it.
Yes, I did.
This actually is the fruit of a discovery.
Yes, it is. That's true.
When did you find your diary?
I was looking through all my kids' baby clothes, and at the very bottom of this box was my old diary. And I thought about it. And the Lord had been telling me for years and years, Donna, would you write your story? Would you write it? And I wanted to think, I thought and I fought it with him, because it was never my desire to spill my entire life and heart for the world to see. But the thing is, I thought in diary form, that kid that is going through the same misery that I was growing up in an alcoholic home, in a diary form. So I sat in my backyard and I said, okay, Lord, I took the memories I had and I said, show me more. And he just showed me memory after memory, and I just wrote, Dear Jesus, or Dear Friend, whichever it was in that part of the book.
This was a long and painful process.
Yes, my house was never so clean as when I was writing that book, because I could think of anything I'd rather do than write that, because it was so hard.
It's very, very precious. Dear friend, I'm not sure how many pages in. You can see I've really enjoyed reading this. Before it becomes Dear Jesus, but I'm impressed as I read, and I'm busting to share this, as I read the workbook for discussion leaders, that you say you remember, lots you don't remember, but you remember every Sunday school teacher, every youth worker, every person who brought light into your darkness. Tell us about the darkness.
Well, there was no shortage of it, but of course there's always the good stuff. I always don't want to, not all of life is miserable. But there was very difficult. Growing up in our home, my dad was an alcoholic, and there was a lot of fighting. And there was no one to talk to, because my mom was so wrapped up in the brokenness of this home and trying to deal with a marriage that clearly was not a great one. And where do you go as a kid? Who wipes your tears? And in my book, I tell that when I would cry, I would go to my room and my cat would lick my tears. And that was as much comfort as I had, because my mom, she wasn't there for that kind of stuff. And I would often sit in my closet, and that's where I would write my journal, because I felt safe there. And I know that there are kids all over Canada and United States that sit in their closets, and because it's a place where they feel safe.
Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys. There's a world where I can go and tell my secrets to in my room.
Yeah.
So you actually went inside your closet and closed the door.
Yeah, I just brought my blanket in and my lamp, and there I sat and my pillow and had my little diary, and I would write there.
And even though your friend was invisible initially, I mean, it was non-specific, that did something for you.
Well, it was comforting for sure. It was comforting, but it wasn't enough though. I needed something more. I needed somebody bigger and somebody who could actually make a difference. I knew that this friend wasn't going to be able to really change what my life was. And then my friend, she mentioned just a little bit about Jesus, and I thought, wow. So all I knew is he was God's son and he was bigger than me, and that was good enough. And I thought, well, I'm going to write to him. So I started to write to Jesus, and I would pour my heart out to him. And that's how he and I became best friends.
And you told him everything.
Yes, I did.
And there's such a trust there. There's such a sense of, this is a person who knows me and everything I'm going through. You had that right away. I mean, there are people watching us right now who are Christians who don't know this intimacy that you were cultivating as a little girl with your friend who sticks closer than a brother.
Yeah. Well, I was desperate. I needed somebody, and I needed someone to help me figure out how to navigate all the things that we had to live through.
Now, we can't tell all the things, but, and you've left some of the things out, I know. But, wow, so much violence, so much trauma. There's a murder in your complex. There's a woman who commits suicide jumping off a balcony. What would the third thing be? I mean,
well, I mean,
really
just
bizarre, horrible.
Well, there were two murders. There's one suicide. I had another girlfriend who was killed just outside of our apartment instantly when she was hit by a vehicle. And her mother, that was quite something. Her mother wanted my friend and I to sit with her all day at the funeral home with her daughter, and that was difficult. I mean, considering everything that we were living through in our own personal lives and sitting in a funeral home all day. I mean, we were just, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years old at the time.
Where were you living?
In Scarborough.
Your dad was out of the home with your brother at one point. How long did that last?
That was, my brother was gone for 1 year. My dad was gone for 2. And he came home and he lived at home for about 2 years. And then everything just fell apart really badly. And then Dad left and he never came back again. He lived not far from us, but he had his own place.
Not surprisingly, forgiveness would be a huge component of the healing journey for you. Forgiving your dad.
Absolutely. And forgiving, it's important. The thing with forgiveness is, you're not letting the people off the hook, right? Forgiveness is actually more for our benefit than it is even for the other person. But I really felt that was important to forgive my dad for all the disappointments and the failures and I mean, simple things like forgetting to pick us up when we would go skating, and we were in an outdoor rink, and I remember my sister, my brother, and I sitting there, and it was pitch black. There wasn't a kid left at the rink except us 3 kids, and my dad had gone to a bar and forgot that he dropped us off. And simple things like that, and forgiving God, my father, for those sort of disappointments.